After working on this animated channel intro, I thought I should make a tutorial on this. I have recorded this as a beginner-friendly tutorial. In this tutorial, we use several Blender features like the text objects and quick smoke, geometry nodes, particle systems, rigid body physics, lighting and animation, and several more. If this is something you're interested in, please follow along. First, we will work on creating this text and the green base. Let's start with a new file in Blender. Select all by pressing a key and delete all the objects. I'll enable the screencast keys add-on. This will log the keys and clicks for your reference. Now let's add a plane. This will be our base platform. The size of the plane is 2 meters across. If you have a keyboard with a numpad, you can zoom in by pressing the period, dot symbol, key on it. Press the S and X key to scale the width along X-axis. Press numpad 1 to go to the front view. Press N to check the dimensions. 2.4 meters should be good. Let's add a background color for the plane. I will call it base. Now add the text object. Press Shift and A, then choose text. Rotate 90 degrees. And reduce the radius. I will set the radius to 0.2 meters. Select Text and click on Text Properties tab to change alignment and font style. I'll choose the Basement Grotesque black font. Press Tab key to enter edit mode and change the text. Switch to object mode. Let's go to Material Preview. Select the text object and add a color material. Red color should do. Reduce the roughness to 0. This will make the object reflect some light. Press / key to hide all except the selected object. Looks good. Let's convert the object to a mesh. Click on Object tab, then Convert and click on Mesh. Go to Edit mode by pressing Tab. You can see a lot of triangles in the topology. We don't have to spend time on fixing these, since it's just for animation video. Do a merge by selecting all, CMD/Control and A, and then pressing M key. This will remove any additional vertices. Next, extrude the text mesh by pressing E and dragging the mouse. Make sure it looks good in multiple angles. Numpad 1 for front view. Box select all the front faces. Zoom in and do an inset by pressing the I key. Left-click to confirm the inset. Press Alt/Option and S keys to fatten the face. This should be enough. Do another inset by pressing I key and dragging the mouse. Left-click to confirm the inset. Press Tab to enter object mode. Right-click and shade smooth. Press Tab to enter edit mode. Press Numpad 3 to enter face select mode. Alt/Option and left mouse click to loop select the faces. Do this for all the characters by Shift plus Option and click. Assign a new color to the selected area in the Material Properties tab. I'll choose yellowish orange and make it metallic. Click on Assign to apply the new color. I'll adjust the text color to a much darker red. And also the metallic and roughness properties. .500 should be good for both properties. The text styling is almost complete. Press the / key to unhide all the hidden objects. Let's add a camera object. Adjust the angle and location. Click on the camera icon for camera view. While in camera view, click on the lock icon, and then pan and zoom to adjust the camera view. Click on the lock icon again to retain this camera view. The text to mesh and the styling is complete. Let's start working on the animation now. Click to select the text object. First, I'll move the text out of the camera view by pressing N and adjusting the transform properties. Now we have to keyframe the location of the text. Let's expand the keyframe editor / animation player section. Move the playhead to frame 12. Hover the mouse over the location property in the transform menu and press the I key to insert a keyframe. Move the playhead to frame 36. Set the Z location property to 0 and press I again to insert a keyframe. For now, I'll set the frame end to 48 frames. Move the playhead to frame 1 and press play. Now we have the animation working. Let's move the second keyframe from 36 to 24. To increase the speed of the animation, play the animation again and see if it's good enough. Let's switch to Graph Editor. Expand text action and then object transform. Click on Z location and press Shift plus H key. This will hide the other location axis graphs. Now press A to select all the keyframes. Right-click and change the interpolation mode to linear. Click on View menu and enable playback controls. And play the animation. By default, the interpolation mode is set to Bezier curve, which kind of eases into the animation action. We want a slam effect and don't need any easing. Switch back to Dope Sheet Editor. Select and drag the second keyframe from frame 24 to 18. Click on View menu and enable playback controls. Let's play the animation again. Maybe we need to move second keyframe to frame 16. Let's do that. Now we have the slam effect. This should be good. Let's also change the passepartout of camera. Select Camera Object. Go to Camera Properties and expand Viewport Display. Change the passepartout from 0.5 to 0.99. This just darkens the area around camera view to avoid distractions. Next, we will work on the smoke effect. Press Shift+A to launch Add menu and select Plane Mesh. Adjust the scale of the plane just enough to fit under the text object. Let's rename the objects in the outliner editor. The green plane would be base. The white plane under the text would be smoke emitter. With the smoke emitter selected, go to Particles tab and add a particle system. Under Emission section, change the frame start and end to 16, and lifetime to 5. In the Render section, change the render as to none. Uncheck Show Emitter. In the Viewport Display section, change the display as to none. With the smoke emitter object still selected, click on Object menu. Then Quick Effects and click on Quick Smoke. This adds a smoke domain object. I'll exit the camera view to better view the smoke domain dimensions. Scale down the smoke domain size. Scale along the Z-axis. And align to encompass the text. This should be good. We have to edit a few more settings for the smoke domain. Click on the Physics tab in the Properties editor. Set frame end to 48. Enable noise and dissolve properties. Select Smoke Emitter in the Outliner editor and go to Physics tab. Expand the Flow Source section and change it from Mesh to Particle System. Click on the Particle System input field and select the listed particle system. Switch to rendered mode in Viewport Shading. Add a light object by pressing Shift+A. I will choose Sun. Adjust the light settings in the Light Properties tab. And the location and the angle. Now playing the animation should display smoke on impact. Enter the camera view by clicking the camera icon. Let's test the animation again. Select the smoke domain. Click on Material Properties tab. Expand the volume section to change the color. I'll choose a color that would resemble soil dust. Play the animation to verify the color. Change the buoyancy density to 0.4. To change the smoke density. Replay animation to verify. I'll adjust the lighting a bit more. In the light properties, reduce the strength a bit. Change the light color. And reset the X-axis rotation to 0. Play animation to verify. I'll change the smoke color to greenish yellow. Unhide the base plane in the outliner. Select Base Object. Switch to Edit Mode. Subdivide the plane 10 times. Switch back to Object Mode. Add a Displace modifier in the Modifiers tab. Click New to add a texture. You can click on the texture icon next to the name, or the texture icon in the Properties window. In Texture Properties, change the type to Clouds. Switch back to Modifiers tab and adjust strength and mid-level of the cloud texture. The base plane might need a few more subdivisions. Tab into Edit Mode and add one more subdivision. I like the pattern and I'll leave it as is instead of smoothing. I'll also change the light source type to area from sun. Make a few adjustments to shape, size, and rotation. Let's check how it looks in rendered preview. Play the animation. This looks great. The white patch that you see is the smoke emitter object. This patch wouldn't render when you decide to render the animation. The render as set to none makes sure it doesn't render. The viewport display is set to none, which I think should not display it in the viewport as well. If it bothers you, there's a hacky way to not display it. Temporarily set render as to object. Viewport display as rendered and uncheck show emitter. Now switch back to none in render as and viewport display. The white plane no longer renders in viewport as well. Let's play the animation again to make sure everything is fine. Now, let's divide the text into 3 separate words, and update animation to drop the words one after another. Select the text object and press / to hide the rest. Press Tab key to enter edit mode. Press Shift+Z for wireframe mode. Box select the letters D and O. Press the P key and select separate by selection. Now the word do is a separate object. Follow the same steps for 1. Go to Outliner and rename the text meshes. Now we have to fix the origin of all 3 objects. The origin of all 3 objects are in this location. Switch to object mode. Select Tech. Tab into edit mode. Select the bottom face of the letter E. Make sure you have face select enabled. Press Shift+S to launch the pie menu, and choose cursor to selected option. The 3D cursor sticks to the selected face. Tab into object mode. Right-click, then set origin to 3D cursor. Do the same for the remaining text objects. I'll place the 3 text objects under their respective collections. Each text object needs its own smoke emitter. Select Smoke Emitter Object and press Shift+D to duplicate. Resize and align the smoke emitter to match the text length. Now, if you play the animation, the text may become overlapped. This is because of the keyframes that we had defined previously, when the text was a single object. To fix this, move playhead to the first wireframe and change the x-axis location of the object and keyframe again. Change the x-axis location and press the I key. Repeat the same for the other text objects. Switch to rendered view and then camera view. The text is not center aligned on x-axis. Let's quickly fix the location. Let's get back to adjusting the smoke emitter. The keyframes of the three objects are at frame 12 and 16. Select the Object 1 box, select its keyframes. Press G and drag the keyframes to start from frame 16. Do the same for the third text object by starting it from frame 20. Replay the animation. I'll move the keyframes a few frames further. The smoke emitter is triggered at the right time for the first text object. We have to adjust it for the remaining two. Select Smoke Emitter 2 and launch Particle Properties tab. Second text impact keyframe ends at frame 28. Click on the displayed number to create new particle settings. Change the frame start and end to 28. Third text object impact keyframe ends at frame 40. Select Smoke Emitter 3. Create new settings under Particle System tab. And change the frame start and end to 40. Replay animation and verify. Smoke Emitter 2 is not working. Let's fix that. Select Smoke Emitter 2 and go to Particles tab. Change Viewport Display as to None. Replay animation and verify. Make sure to set all Viewport Display as to None. Unhide base and camera objects and verify animation. Next, go to frame 48 and adjust the rotation of the text objects. Shift plus left click to select both text and smoke emitter. Spacebar plus are key for guided rotation. Rotate along Z-axis. Follow the same steps for the other objects. Make sure the animation works. Now let's create cubes and spheres with logos. First, start with a new file. Press N for Object Properties. Set dimensions to 0.4 meters. Press numpad 1 for front view. Press G plus Z to move along Z-axis. Hold Control key and drag mouse to align above the red X-axis. Press Command/Control plus A and select location to apply. Apply the scale as well. With the cube selected, click on Material Properties. Click on the yellow dot next to base color and select Image Texture. Select a PNG image. Check how it appears in Material Preview. Change the image property from Repeat to Clip. Switch to UV Editing tab. Numpad dot to zoom in. Click on UV menu and select Cube Projection. Check how it appears in Material Preview. In the UV editor on the left, press S to scale and drag the mouse. Adjust the image to your liking. Switch back to the Layout tab. This looks good. Press Shift+D to duplicate and press the number 1 key. Press Shift+R to repeat the duplicate and move process. Select the second cube and change the image. You can see the change reflected in all the cubes. We don't want that. Press Command+Z to undo. Box select all the cubes except the first one. Click on Object Menu, Relations, Make Single User and click on Materials. This breaks the material data link between the objects. Now try changing the image. The change is reflected on only one cube. Now change the image of all the other cubes. If the images appear skewed, you can readjust the UV projection. These are perfect. Press A to select all. Press Shift+D to duplicate, then Y key and 1 key. Press click to confirm. With the duplicated cubes selected, press Ctrl/Command+4. This adds a subdivision surface modifier. Box select all, right-click and select Shade Smooth to smooth the surface. Save the file. We'll append these objects in the previously created animation. Now, let's append the spheres that we created into the main animation file. Make sure you're on the first animation blend file. Add a new plane mesh by pressing Shift+A. Press /key to hide the rest. Tab into Edit mode. Right-click and subdivide. Set the number of cuts to 8 in Subdivide menu. With the plane selected, switch to Geometry Nodes mode. Click on New. Press Shift+A in Node Editor. Search for and add Mesh to Points node. Next, add an instance on Points node. Now let's append the cubes and spheres with logos created in the previous video. Click on File menu and click on Append. Locate the file with the objects and double-click. Double-click on Collections and select Sphere Logos. Now the logo objects are appended. Select all the logo sphere objects. Press Shift+S keys to launch the pie menu and choose Selection to Cursor. Now all the logo objects are overlapping in one location. Set the Mesh to Points mode to Faces. Press Shift+A key and add Collection Info node. Select Sphere Logos Collection in the Input field. Connect Instances Output to Instance Input of Instance on Points node. Connect Instances Output to Group Output if the connection is severed. Enable Pick Instance in Instance on Points, and Separate Children in Collection Info. Now we have all the spheres projected. Next, add a Scale Instances node. Then add a Random Value node and connect it to Scale. Change Min to 0.2, Max to 0.3. Press /key to unhide all the objects. Also make sure to hide Sphere Logos Collection. Next, add a Rotate Instances node. You can adjust the rotation of all the instances. We can set it to adjust randomly. Add a Random Value node. Set Min to 0 and Max to 360 and assign it to Rotation property. Duplicate Random Value node 2 times. Add a Combine XYZ node to combine the 3 random values. Connect the vector output of Combine XYZ node to Rotation. You can tidy up the nodes if you want. Right now, the spheres are on every face of the plane. We can choose to randomly display or hide the spheres. To do that, we can add a Random Value node. Press Shift+A and add a Random Value node to Mesh to Points. Change from Float to Boolean. Connect to Mesh to Points and adjust the probability to your liking. Now the spheres appear scattered randomly instead of on every column/row. Now let's work on creating a wall of cubes. First, I'll name the sphere plane as Sphere Logo Scatter. We can duplicate the previous GeoNode process to create this. Select Sphere Logo Scatter Object and press Shift+D to duplicate. Select the duplicated object and rotate 90 degrees on X-axis. Adjust the location on Y-axis. Adjust the location on Y-axis. Let's append the cube with logos that were created in Chapter 4. Go to File menu and choose Append. Choose Cube Logos Collection. Hide the appended collection. We only need their reference. Select the duplicated plane object and switch to Geometry Nodes tab. Click on the number 2 to create a new node tree copy. In the new node tree, change the collection info to cube logos. We don't need to rotate the cubes for the wall. Hold Command/Control, right-click and drag on the connection. Do the same to random value node to mesh to points. This will sever the connection. Switch to camera view and verify the look. I'll rename the object to Cube Logo Scatter. Adjust the location and the camera view. Since half the cube wall is invisible, we can delete that half. Press slash to hide all except cube logo wall. Tab into edit mode. Press X and select faces. You have to be in the face select mode for this. Box select the bottom half and press X. Then select faces in the delete menu. Tab back to object mode. Clean up the unused nodes in the GeoNodes editor. Remove unwanted nodes. With random value for scale removed, set X, Y and Z axes to 0.3. This looks good. Now, let's work on creating the slogan with a typewriter effect. Hold Shift and right-click above the text to move 3D cursor. Then add a cube. Set the size to 0.2 meters. Scale down the cube by pressing S key and dragging mouse. Adjust the location on Y and Z axis. Switch to Geometry Nodes Editor. Click on New to add GeoNode tree to the cube. Remove the group input node by selecting it and pressing X. Add a slice to string node. A string to curves node. A fill curve node. And a curve to mesh node. Type the text in slice to string node. Set the length value to 30. Connect all the nodes in series to group output node. Add a transform geometry node at the end before group input. Set rotation to 90 degrees. Adjust text settings in string to curves node. Align to center, font size to 0.12 meters. Set the text length to 36 to display all the text. Adjust the Z-axis location of the text to fall between the row of logo cubes. That should be enough for GeoNodes. Click on Material Properties. I'll set the color to bluish green. Add a Set Material node after Transform Geometry. Name the material color of the text. I'll set it to Caption Color. Select the named material color in the Set Material node. Now the text color is reflected in the 3D viewport. Adjust the font size to 0.18 meters and align on Z-axis. Now let's go to Compositing tab to add a glow to text. Hover, click and drag at the top to split window. Switch the second window to 3D viewport. Press slash to hide the rest. Select the text and click New in the Compositor editor. Press Shift+A and add Glare node in between. Click on Material Preview mode. Click on the arrow next to it and select Always in the dropdown. Change the type from streaks to bloom. Adjust the threshold to increase the bloom effect. Go back to Material Properties and increase emission strength. 2.4 should do and set color to bright green. Next, I'll change the font. I'll use one of the fonts I downloaded. I'll use Courier Prime regular font. Back to Compositing tab to verify the text style. Press /key to unhide all the objects. There is a visible glare in the viewport. This is because of the glare node we have added. We'll fix that later. Let's animate the text now in Geometry Nodes Editor. Set the frame end to 100 in the Dope Sheet editor. Move the playhead to frame 48. Set the length to 0 in Slice String node and press I key to add a keyframe. Move the playhead to frame 84 and set the length to 36. Now play the animation from frame 48. Increase the frame count to 120. Click and drag the last keyframe from frame 84 to 120. If you encounter this, the quick fix is to change the frame end in smoke domain. Replay animation again and the issue should be fixed. Now let us look at how to fix the glare issue in the render. The idea is to hide and disable render of the slogan text. Mute glare node M key in the compositing editor. Render animation where glare is not needed. Then hide all except slogan text and render again with glare node enabled. First, let's change the name of the slogan object to caption. Set the frame end to 48 as that's where the original animation ends. Go to Output tab in Properties window. Set the output location and also the file name prefix. I'll use main_animation_prefix and accept. You can choose either video or image sequence for the animation. I chose PNG image sequence and then render menu and render animation. After rendering the animation, hide and disable all except caption text. Set frame end to 120. Change frame start to 48 and end to 120 in output properties. Change image sequence prefix. I'll set it to main_animation_caption_ and click accept. Then render the animation with glare node enabled in compositing editor. Let's unhide and enable all the objects. Now let's work on lighting sequence. The lights would be arranged approximately like in this image. The lights would be animated to be turned on or off in a sequence. First, I'll move the light sun to its own collection, lighting. I'll change the name of the light to initial fill light. I don't want the text to be visible initially. So let's reduce the power value in light properties. In the Object Properties tab, I'll move the light behind text along Y-axis. I want the text to be slightly visible as it is falling before the impact. Let's move the playhead to frame 14. Change light type to sun in the light properties. Next, press Shift and right-click to move 3D cursor right below and behind tech. Add a point light pressing Shift plus A, light, and selecting point. Let's check the lighting in rendered preview. Duplicate the light with Shift plus D and move it right. With the duplicated light selected, press N for transform properties, and change the X-axis location. Play the animation and verify if the smoke effect is visible. Let's rename the lights. Let's determine when to turn on/off the rim lights. The text animation happens between 12 and 48. Select Rim Light R, click on white dot next to power to add a keyframe. Move playhead to frame 11, set power to 0 and add a keyframe pressing I key. Move playhead to frame 48 and add a keyframe. Move playhead to frame 49, set power to 0 and add a keyframe. Select Rim Light L and move playhead to frame 28. Add a keyframe to power under Light Properties. Move playhead to frame 27 and add a keyframe with power set to 0. Move playhead to frame 54 and add a keyframe to power. Move playhead to frame 55, set power to 0 and add a keyframe. I'll further adjust the last two keyframes to create a fade effect. Next, select Initial Fill Light and set Playhead to 48. Set Strength in Light Properties to 0 and add a keyframe on frame 47. Now the lights are visible for a brief period. Switch to Material Preview. Shift plus right-click to move 3D cursor at the mouse cursor. Press Shift plus A and add a spotlight. With spotlight selected, zoom and place cursor on the middle text object. Pressing Shift plus T now will point the light at the text. Switch to Rendered Preview. Adjust the angle of the spotlight. Adjust the location and rotation of the spotlight. The goal is to move the spotlight from left to right and right to left. Set the rotation of x-axis to 8, 6 and z-axis to 39 degrees. Animation playhead should be at frame 60. With mouse over rotation properties, press the I key to add a keyframe. Move playhead to frame 108, set z-axis rotation to 39 and add a keyframe. Let's scrub the playhead and test it. Move the keyframe from 108 to 132. Duplicate the keyframe on frame 60 with Shift plus D. Move it to frame 204. Move playhead to frame 60 and add a keyframe to power property. Move playhead to frame 204 and add a keyframe to power property. Move playhead to frame 205. Set power to 0 and add a keyframe. Move playhead to frame 59. Set power to 0 and add a keyframe. Let's switch to camera view and play the animation. Let's switch to material preview. Shift plus right-click behind the text to place 3D cursor at the mouse pointer. First, I'll rename these lights to temp rim lights. Press Shift plus A and add a new area light. Rename it Rim Light. Zoom in. Hover the mouse pointer over the text in the middle and press Shift plus T. This will align the light with the text. Set the rotation of x-axis to 90 and y and z-axis to 0. Switch to Material Preview and adjust the location. Adjust the Power in Light Properties tab. Switch to Material Preview. Shift plus right-click at the bottom right to move 3D cursor. Press Shift plus A to add a new area light. I'll rename it Fill Light R. Duplicate the light and rename it Fill Light L. Press N for transform properties and move it to the left on x-axis. Select both Fill Light L and R, then press Shift plus T hovering mouse over the text. Both lights now focus the text. Select Rim Light and switch to Rendered View. Move the playhead to frame 210 and add a keyframe on Power in Light Properties. Move the playhead to frame 209 and add a keyframe with power set to 0. Increase the total number of frames to 336. Move the playhead to frame 216. With Fill Light are selected, add a keyframe to Power property. Move playhead to frame 215 and add a keyframe with power set to 0. Let's do the same with Fill Light L. Move playhead to frame 222 and add a keyframe on Power property. Move playhead to frame 221 and add a keyframe with power set to 0. Let's scrub through the animation and check if it's working as intended. Let's change the shape of rim light to rectangle. And adjust width and height. Let's also adjust power settings of Fill Lights. We'll have to keyframe power value again since we changed the value. Exit camera view and enter material preview. Set the rotation of Fill Lights on Y-axis to 0. Let's go back to rendered view. Move the Fill Light L keyframes from 221 and 222 to 227 and 228. Adjust the rectangle size to 0.8 for x-axis and 4 for y-axis. Next, let's add a key light. Press Shift+A and select Point Light. Adjust light settings in Light Properties. Move playhead to frame 234. Select Key Light. Add a keyframe on power. Move playhead to frame 233. Set power to 0 and add a keyframe. I'll move the fill lights and key light keyframes a bit further. Let's also increase the power of fill lights and update the keyframes. Let's play the animation to verify. Now the lighting setup is complete. Next, I would like to add a background plane when spotlight is moving. Press Shift+S and select Cursor to World Origin. Press Shift+A to add a new plane object. In the Add Plane dialog, rotate 90 degrees on X-axis. Adjust the location of plane on Y-axis to just before the logo wall. Press Command/Control+A and apply rotation and scale. Rename the plane as Shadow Background. The spotlight gets active on frame 60. Let's move it down Z-axis out of camera view. At frame 59, add a keyframe on Shadow Background's location. Move playhead to frame 205. Add a keyframe at frame 205. Set Z-axis to 0 and add a keyframe at frame 60. Set Z-axis to 1.1 and update the keyframe at frame 59. Duplicate keyframe on frame 205 and move it 204. Set the location of Z-axis to 0 and update keyframe on frame 204. Now the white background plane would only be visible while the spotlight is moving. Play the animation and verify in rendered mode. Now let's work on building this. Create a new file and delete the default cube. Press Shift+A and add a circle. Press S plus numpad 2 to scale 2x. Tab into edit mode. With all the vertices selected, press F to add a face. The goal is to create a funnel-like object. Press I and drag the mouse to inset. Switch to face, select Option and press numpad 1 for front view. Enable proportional editing, press G then Z and drag down to create a bowl-like structure. Select middle face and delete it by pressing X and selecting face. Press A to select all. Switch to Material Properties and add a color. I'll create two colors, white stripes and black stripes. With all the faces selected, click on Select menu and then checker Deselect. Assign the black stripes color to the selected faces. Let's switch to Material Preview and verify. Switch to Edge Select mode. Hold Alt/Option and left-click on the edges of the inner circle. Make sure proportional editing is enabled. Press numpad 7 for top view. Press R and drag mouse to rotate. Press numpad 1 for front view. Then press E then Z to extrude on Z-axis. Use proportional editing to scale inward. Hold Option plus left-click on the outer edge of the circle. Press numpad 1 for front view and press E to extrude. Use Shift plus Control while dragging mouse to extrude in steps. Press S to scale outward. Press numpad 7 for top view. Select the edges as shown with Shift plus Option/Alt and click. Press Command/Control plus B to bevel. Also add a solidify modifier and increase thickness to 0.02. Also add a subdivision surface modifier and change the levels to 2. Verify in Material Preview. Now, let's append the logo spheres that we had created previously. Locate the blend file and double-click on it. Double-click on Collection and select Sphere Logos. Right-click on Sphere Logo Collection and choose Select Objects. Align the spheres as shown here. Now select the funnel object. Add a rigid body simulation in Physics tab. Set type to passive and shape to mesh. Now select all the sphere objects. Shift plus left-click on one of the spheres. Add a rigid body simulation. Set the shape to sphere. Now click on Object menu, Rigid Body, and click on Copy from Active. This copies rigid body simulation of active sphere to all other selected spheres. Let's play the simulation and verify. Let's increase the speed of animation. In Scene Properties, Rigid Body World, increase speed to 5 and replay animation. It's too fast, 2 should be good. Let's also scale down the spheres. Select all spheres from Outliner. Press S to scale and hold Shift plus Control for step scale down. Replay the animation. Scale down the dimensions to 0.3 and apply the rotation and scale. Now let's start working on animating the camera. Select camera and set location and rotation to 0 on all axes. Set rotation of x-axis to 145 and z-axis to 90. Go to camera view and adjust the location. In the Dope Sheet editor, make sure the playhead is at frame 1. Add keyframes on location and rotation by pressing I key. Move playhead to frame 12. Adjust the location on z-axis and rotation on x-axis as shown. Then add keyframes on location and rotation by pressing I key. Move playhead to frame 24. Adjust the locations and rotation as shown. Then add keyframes on location and rotation by pressing I key. Adjust the keyframe position as shown. Update camera location keyframe on frame 24. Add another keyframe as shown at frame 36 for camera location. Let's play the animation now. Move around the keyframes as shown for a much smoother camera movement. Next, I want the camera view to spin and zoom in. Move playhead to frame 84 and add a keyframe on rotation of Z-axis to 180. Also add a location keyframe as shown to create zoom in effect. Also add a location keyframe at frame 108 to zoom in further. Set the frame count to 120. Let's play the animation now. Let's set the frame count to 180. Move around the keyframes as shown to adjust the animation timing. Now I want the spheres to fall into a dark space instead of gray. Let's add a plane to do that. Set the dimension to 6 meters across. Add a material to the plane and set base color to black. Move it down along Z-axis as shown. Update the keyframe at 144 and adjust the location as shown. Now the camera zooms in further. Now switch to Graph Editor. Expand the camera channel. Click on Z location and press Shift+H to hide the rest. Press A to select all, right-click and select Linear in interpolation mode. Switch back to Dope Sheet Editor. By default, the interpolation is set to Bezier, which eases in slash-out between keyframes. With linear interpolation, there is no ease in and out of keyframes. With this, the animation is complete. Now let's look at rendering the animation. To do that, go to Output tab. Select the output folder and type in a file name. Let's set frame end to 3. Adjust the render engine settings as shown. Before rendering, let's add an environment texture. Click on Shading menu and select World Object. Click on yellow dot next to Color and choose Environment Texture. If you don't have HDRI images, you can download it from polyhaven.com. I downloaded the Citrus Orchard Road for this animation. Select the downloaded HDRI image. Switch to rendered view. This is how the world around looks. Now let's render the animation. The selected frame range would be rendered as an image sequence. Now, let's focus on how to render and edit the animation. I'll use the animation from previous video as an example. First, switch to Output Properties, then set Output Folder and File Name. In the Output Properties, you can notice that I chose Image and PNG. This will generate image sequence for every frame instead of a single video file. Go to Render Properties and Edit Settings as shown. Then click on Render menu and select Render Animation. The animation would be generated for the selected frame range. Let's look at the generated files. I generated 3 separate image sequences. The title card, which is the text animation with smoke and lighting effects. This has around 468 images. The next animation was what I call spiral funnel. It has around 192 images in sequence for every frame. The third animation was what I call caption, which has typewriter effect for text. This animation has around 64 frames. This animation was captured separated from main text animation due to the bloom effect. I needed bloom effect only on the caption text rather than the whole text animation. Continue with this video to learn how I edit all the animations into one video. For editing, I am using DaVinci Resolve 20. It's a free software. I am in the Media tab, highlighted in the bottom. Navigate to the Animation Output folder. You can see that the image sequence appears as a single video. To enable this, click on the 3 dots above Select Sequence in Frame Display Mode. If you choose Individual, then you can see the image sequence. Let's select Sequence in Frame Display Mode. And drag the file into the media pool below. You can create a new bin as shown and then drag the file. Drag all the generated animation sequences to Media Pool. and switch to Edit mode. Right-click in the media pool and create a new timeline and drag all the videos into it. Dragging the playhead scrubs through the timeline. Hit spacebar to play the videos. The next step is the edit the clips and add transitions and sound effects. Here's the video after editing. That's all for a 45-second animation. Now on to overlay the typing effect video on the text animation. I'll demonstrate it using a new timeline. Place the typewriter effect animation on top of the text animation. Right-click on the video and select Open in Fusion page. Select Media in 1, press Shift plus spacebar and select Luma Kier, Lakey. Adjust the settings as shown. Go back to Edit page and you can see just the text without the black background. Now for the sound effects. I've added some impact and riser effects. Rolling rocks effect for the spheres rolling. some more riser effects. I added impact effect when the words land in sequence. There is a lamp buzz and spotlight effect for the spotlight. Added a whoosh effect for the curtain. And bulb turning on effect for the lights turning on in sequence. And keyboard typing effect for the typing animation. I have also added a light background music. And some clicking and bell effect for subscribe suggestions. Now the final video.